Hello guys, today we will talk a little bit about documentation on the project. So we definitely know that sometimes time will come up when we will need to share with someone documentation around our project or some certain functionality, and it will be always good for us to have something that we could quickly just copy paste to someone or share some article and the necessary person will get it. But sometimes when it's happening, when we're working on the documentation, it's usually the end of the project and we don't always have time for it, or developers are reassigned to other project, and in that moment what we are getting is we are getting a project without any kind of documentation and it needs to be handled. So I have a couple of advices that you could use on your project which will increase your, let's say, documentation level. So first thing, I think that always, or in most of kind of use cases, what different kind of teams have in use, it's kind of Jira similar tool. And it's great if this Jira similar tool will contain information about the features that customer request. Let's say the way how it's work, some requirements around how it should look like, how it should behave, and so on and so forth. So in this case, the ticket itself is already look like its own, let's say, documentation. So that means that if someone will open the user story, will take a look, they will be able to see that what kind of functionality was expected to build. But sometimes what is happening is we don't actually have technical documentation around it. Let's say how it was built, and in the future if we will need to add some additional functionality to that already prepared feature, we will need to investigate how it was done. And if for any reason it will be not documented, in that case the developer who will pick it up, that update, if it's not was the same developer who was working on that feature, he will need to investigate, like from where he needs to start. So there we have a couple of ways how we could actually address it. First possible way, it's we could connect our CI tool with our Jira. So what does it mean? It means that each time when we will try to create a new commit, and this specific commit or the specific pull request will be related to the certain user story in our Jira, in that case it will be automatically reflected as an additional comment to that Jira user story. So that means that if someone will come up to that user story after some period of time, they will be able to see all of kind of commits related to that user story. So they will be attached, and it will be easy to track the actual history of the changes related to that user story. So one more possible option that could be used, it's to start to actually use Confluence. But the idea of using Confluence should be a little bit different than how we have it usually. Let's say just have some pages in Confluence and ask developers to communicate their functionality, like at the end. And sometimes if we don't have, let's say, time for it for our developers and they need to urgently start next task, so that means that our Confluence will just contains some started article but not finished and things like this. And in my past experience, we had a little bit different way how we organized the work with Confluence. So what we did, it's on our project there was a tech leader, and it was, let's say, one of responsibilities for tech leader to predefine some initial design for developers who will start work on some user stories. Like for example, if there will be user story A, so technical leader starting to review it, and he already could say, okay, so here we could reuse some, for example, email service class. Here, for example, we will need to build a screen flow. Here we will need to use some kind of automation stuff. And he documented some his ideas and his vision in that initial Confluence page. So that means that in that case, all of kind of Jira tickets actually contains related to them Confluence pages. And in that manner, when the developer starting to working on them, they could already observe some, let's say, advices from the tech leader how they need to actually proceed with that specific user story. So from one side, what we are getting is we are getting good situation when some developers will start working on user story. They will already be able to get advices and guided, let's say, solution, even if later they will be able to find out any kind of blockers with those, like suggested solutions, they will be able to discuss it with the technical leader, but at least initial directions will be done. And initial, let's say, documentation around the actual implementation will be already included. And then during the project, once developer working on some functionality, they implementing something, and they could just actually add a comment to that Confluence page about the actual solution, or for example attach a link to pull request. And in case that Confluence is connected to Jira connected to CI, and all these three, let's say, systems are actually connected together. So that means that we always have a situation when we have at least initial documentation, we have user stories that describe requirements, we have guides from technical leader of the project, and we have the actual implementation pull requests and commits added actually to the user story. So in that case, we are getting situation when we are covered from different kind of, let's say, possible questions that could come back later. So you might have a question that, like, for example, when tech leader will have so much time for him to go and prepare this initial technical proposed solution. And for that, what we did, it's we allowed our technical leader on the project to start a little bit earlier than other team. So that means that, for example, if you are starting a project in 1 month, so here was a person who started working 2 weeks prior to them, and he was able to take a look and combine and prepare user stories related to the first sprint. So when other developers started to review those user stories, he could concentrate and take a look user stories related to sprint 2, so sprint 2 candidates. And in that case, what is happening, it's developers starting to review user stories for their sprint. So tech leader at this moment have some free time, so he could consider sprint 2. So then during the first sprint, he is just working closely with the technical team, helping them, and at the same time he's taking a look into the user story candidates for the sprint 2. So when sprint 2 will be started, so idea is similar, so he will take a look into the user story related to sprint 3. And in that case, what we have, it's our development team, as we just mentioned, will have actual predefined plan how they will need to implement some certain functionality. So the technical leader will be aligned that everything what will be implemented via different developers will be implemented according to some special and unified patterns that will be used on that project. And everything what he will need to do it's during that project, it's to control and help developers to resolve their blockers and continue to work on next sprint topics. So in that case, you could see that this technical leader is actually not doing the real development on that project. He's just performing review, technical solution stuff, and helping to address any kind of blockers and issues. So in that case, that's project and the solution will be aligned, and if even the technical leader will be included in this project at earlier stages, like for example when the actual architect will communicate with the business, so that means that actually technical leader will be able to actually hear the discussion and understand at the earlier stages of the project what kind of let's say possible bad places that project could have, like for example which components will need to work with big amount of data, where potentially will be so complex logic, where potentially CPU will be let's say reached, where we could potentially reach other limitations, like for example the numbers of emails that we are sending from our system to our customers. So those kind of different stuff could be already like in the head of the actual technical leader of the project, and that means that when he will work on this attack plan, he should already be able to control and address those let's say questions before they will actually come up.